Welcome back to Student Hub Live, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences new curriculum showcase. We are now going to be talking about D890 Global Development in Practice, which is a postgraduate certificate leading to the MSc in Global Development. Now, I know many of you won't yet be at a postgraduate level, but it's always so exciting to meet some of the team and find out about opportunities available to you as an OU student. So if you aren't quite at that level yet, do hang on because we've got 2 more sessions here that are bound to be very, very interesting generally, if not specifically about the qualifications. So I'm joined by Emil Dauncey, who is a lecturer in international development with the Department of Development Policy and Practice and is the Deputy Module Chair. Welcome, Emil. And we're going to be
Hi
joined
there, hi
shortly by
there.
Martha. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good. We're very good indeed.
Brilliant.
But thank you
And
for having us
hopefully,
here.
oh no, we're super excited to find out about this. So that's wonderful. Thank you for coming. And we've also got Martha with us, who hopefully has got her video sorted. So we'll introduce you to her in just a moment's time as well. But Emil, I wonder if we can start. We often start with sort of looking at definitions and terms and things. And so I
Mhm.
wondered if you could sort of explain to us what development actually is. Hi, Martha.
Development, well, development's a fascinating area because it's not really when we think of things like geography or international relations or sociology, these are all kinds of academic disciplines or fields. But development is all about issues, the really big issues of the moment. So we're thinking about poverty and conflict and inequality, climate change, health. Never has anything been ever more important than health at this moment in time, right? So it's all about big issues and how do we make sense of them and how do we tackle those issues? I mean, we could think about this in concrete terms, perhaps can we get students involved here? Is that possible?
Absolutely, yes. And HJ's ready to talk to them about what they think. So go for it, Emil.
Awesome. Okay, so let's have a think about some issues. Let's think about poverty, climate change, migration, conflict, inequality. If you were a key policymaker, perhaps you're working for government or you're working for the United Nations, which of those issues do you think you would prioritize? If you had to decide perhaps how to spend your budget or which kind of issue to give political time to, which of these things would you prioritize? And let us know why you would prioritize those things.
Okay, so we've got a multi-choice question here for people at home to fill in. In your opinion, what is the biggest global challenge? But also in terms of some of the questions that Emil's put, you might want to put your responses in the chat here as well. So some of these massive questions, what would you choose to prioritize and why? So HJ, people coming up with things. Yeah, I think we're slightly behind on the live stream feed from our live sessions here, but what are people concerned with right now?
A lot of people answer in the widget, so do join in to the left. What do you think? Poverty, climate change, migration, conflict, or inequality? It seems that the two big issues for us at home seem to be inequality, poverty, then climate change at a third.
Mm.
Jeremy has said some issues as well. So population, habitat destruction, pollution. We talked about plastics earlier. Jeremy, however, does remain optimistic about the future and what we can do. Robert reckons poverty, as it breeds discontent, leading to disorder in our world.
Mm.
Janet's thinking inequality is asking, is inequality tied to poverty or is it two different issues? Um, Lots of issues around land at the moment, land grabs, and the most vulnerable people who bear the brunt of it. So people who for generations have been
Fantastic.
poor, but using land and losing their land. There was a recent story in the US, wasn't there, when some land or ancient land was destroyed. I don't know it too much myself, but it seems to be that people on the lower end are
These are
not
all really
as powerful. Yeah.
great answers to the question. Some really great thoughts there. And I'm really glad. I think it was Jeremy who was saying that he felt really optimistic about things. And I think it's fair to say that this course is a course for the optimists, right? Because it's easy to get ground down by those big challenges, to think, oh gosh, poverty, we've been hearing about this for such a long time. Inequality, this really concerns me. But this course is all about arming you with the tools that you need to challenge those issues, to play your part in making things better. And that's what the whole kind of the whole course is structured around, is that combination of thinking through these issues, thinking through what you've got to bring to this course, and then giving you a set of tools to actually turn your ideas into action.
Brilliant. Well, let's show you the results of that poll then, Emil. So, in your opinion, which is the biggest global political challenge? This is what our audience said.
Mm, okay,
So
fascinating.
inequality
A lot of
really taking the lead there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. And I think I forget the name of the participant, but somebody asking about, are inequality and poverty separate issues or the same thing? And I think again, this is one of the things that we try to do in the course, is unpack how these things are related. So if we're thinking about inequality, we might be thinking about how incomes are distributed, or maybe about health inequalities. One thing we've seen from the coronavirus pandemic is that different sections of society are affected in different ways by health. And in fact, it's drawn out some key issues around inequality, particularly amongst BAME communities and so on. So, yeah, poverty, inequality, very much related, but understanding exactly how and why and what we can do about that is what this course is all about.
Brilliant. Now, it's so important. And whilst this is at a postgraduate level, many students who've been studying DD102, for example, very well versed with the concept of inequality and the way that it is different from differences, for
Mhm,
example. So, big, big questions here. A course that sort of students can see how, I guess, we approach these with different degrees of criticality, but nonetheless are still big and fundamental issues. Martha, I
mhm.
wonder if we could welcome you to the session and
Hi.
thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am okay, but you know what it's like when technology goes wrong. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I do. I certainly do,
I
Martha, and I bet you're a
know.
bit flustered, but luckily you're super positive and happy to be here. And we've been having a
Uh,
great conversation. So, um,
excellent, excellent.
I wanted to ask you about some of the differences because we've been talking about development and Emil's been explaining some of that, and I wanted to ask about the difference, I guess, between international development, which people might associate with humanitarian action, and other non-government organisations, more sort of things like Oxfam, Red Cross, and those sorts of global development. So, what's the distinction then between the international development and global development? And can you explain that to our
Sure.
students?
Sure. Well, I think historically, international development has very much been along the lines of thinking about aid and thinking about how we here in the UK government, we give 0.7% of our GDP in aid to other countries. So it's about the relationships between the UK and other countries. And, we've built roads, hospitals, schools, and millions of volunteers have gone off and worked overseas in countries in the global, typically in the global south, so like Kenya or the Yemen or places like that. However, we now know, and never more so than now with the COVID-19, that some of these problems, such as inequality, poverty, climate change, they're global problems. They can't just be fixed by one or two countries having a good relationship with one another. We need global solutions to global problems. And when we think about inequality and we think about poverty, I was really interested in the news this week that there are over interested and horrified actually that there are over 600,000 children in the UK living in poverty. This is why we talk about global development. It's not just about, us here in the economically advanced part of the world donating money to other parts of the world. These are global problems. We have to sort them out globally.
Mm. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So that's a really nice steer on some of the sort of key ideas. I wonder if we might think then about the people who might undertake a qualification like this, because very often they might want to be development managers. So, Emil, can you explain what development managers are and what sorts of things might they be doing?
Okay, well, the term development manager refers to a broad range of people. So they might be somebody who works for a charity or what we call a non-governmental organization, or maybe they work in campaigning or activism. They might be somebody who works for government. They might be, perhaps they could be setting up food banks in the UK or orchards in Kenya to deal with hunger. Perhaps they work in business and they think about how businesses might work in more sustainable, ethical ways. There's a whole range of roles that development managers perform, but generally it's all about trying to bring about some kind of positive change. And I think that this is another key thing about this module, is that because it's based on giving students those practical skills, we're really talking about a set of transferable skills here. So how to deal with project management, different techniques of project management, and how to deal with different kinds of stakeholders, the different kinds of people that you might need to engage to bring about positive change. And that's so a development manager could be in one of many possible contexts.
Fantastic. Now, Martha, I wanted to ask about how students study this module because you're doing it a little bit differently from the sort of normal virtual learning environment that OU students may be familiar with. And yet we know that many students come to postgraduate study at the OU with no knowledge of how we normally do things. But this
Hmm.
module is being hosted on the award-winning FutureLearn platform, which is an organisation that the OU are part of, but not exclusive to. So can you tell us a little bit about what students might expect in terms of how they study and what some of the advantages are in terms of studying with something like FutureLearn?
Sure. Well, I mean, we're very excited to put this module on FutureLearn. It's given us an opportunity to do things slightly differently, which is exciting for us as a module team. I mean, the first thing I want to say is to students is that the students on FutureLearn are still Open University students. The Open University is still their home base. It's just the platform that's different. And one of the exciting, they still have access to a tutor, they'll have a tutor group, they'll have access to the OU library and all the normal resources, all the advisors and educational advisors that is available to an Open University student. So the only thing that's really different is the location of the module, which is on FutureLearn. And FutureLearn has a very specific sort of style of teaching and learning. And I bet loads of people watching, and myself included, have gone on FutureLearn. We've done some courses and we've seen that they actually feel a little bit different. And that's because there are four pillars which make up what we call the pedagogy, which is just a posh word for saying the way we design teaching and learning. There's four main pillars, and I'm going to go through those briefly now with Emil. And the first one is all about telling stories. So we will tell a story about a particular element of development or a development intervention. And we then will send students away to go and find out more about that story. And the second pillar, Emil, you're going to talk about how we do that.
So we know that we have this fantastic community of students at the Open University. And what we've learned is that often they come with lots of ideas, lots of expertise of their own. And what we want to do, and the reason we've chosen FutureLearn, is because it gives us an opportunity to bring them into conversation with each other and with the wider community at the Open University. So FutureLearn is all about provoking conversation. It's all about creating a kind of community of practice where we can constructively share ideas and learn from each other. And I think
And then,
and that kind. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Emil.
And I was going to say that creating that conversation between students and bringing students into contact with experts brings us on to the third pillar about skills development.
Yeah, so it's not just about telling stories and provoking conversations. It's all about developing your academic skills as well as the development management skills, which will equip students for employability in the future. Which leads us on to getting students through to the end. And essentially, it's all about celebrating success. So celebrating and encouraging people to get to the end of the module and
And of
making
course,
those steps.
and many of the issues we deal with, you see, are difficult issues. Things like poverty, climate change are things that often can be causes of concern, of worry. But what we want to be really clear about is this course is an optimistic course. It's about finding ways forward for helping you play your part in this. And so celebrating success runs through this course in all sorts of ways and works on all sorts of levels. And we really want you to come with us on this course to join in and celebrate together.
That's wonderful. Now you've got a free taster because this sounds really exciting. So I bet people are going to want to find out more. Do you want to tell them about that, Emil?
Yes, so starting on the 6th of July, we're running a free 2-week taster. So it's an opportunity to come and join Martha and I and our other expert facilitators and become a bit more familiar with the course and how it works, understand the FutureLearn platform, and just have a bit of a taster of what this course is all about and how learning on FutureLearn might be different to the other Open University offerings.
That's fantastic. And HJ will put that link in the chat. And Martha, if students complete this, which I'm sure they would with your enthusiasm, what can they go on to study next?
Well, this is a standalone qualification in its own right. So you would end up with a postgraduate certificate anyway, which is an excellent thing to put on your CV. But if you wanted to go on and do a diploma and to do a master's in global development, then you can go on and do that as well. And but that is at the moment, it's on the Open University VLE.
That is
So there are
absolutely
4
wonderful.
steps. Mm.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it sounds like a very, very bright future. You've both cheered me up immensely. I get so depressed often thinking about some of these issues. And it's great to have not only your positivity and enthusiasm, but this focus on change. And I know that so many of our students are deeply worried about some of these issues, are worried about
Mm.
how to do something about it. And this presents a very tangible way of actually going ahead, learning something new, but also making an impact on the world. So, Emil and Martha, thank you so much for being here today. And we're now going to show you at home
Pleasure.
a video, which is our PG certificate in Global Development Management with the Open University. So enjoy that break, and then we'll be back for our final session of the day. Thank you, Emil and Martha, though, for now. See you for our next session in just a moment.